Good morning, friends. This is Durga from IT University. As you guys know, this is backup for my live session. So I might not be able to answer to your questions, but there are folks who might be answering your questions on the live chat. But if your questions are not answered, bear with us because this is primarily for our live audience, so that they can have backup in case if they have to review the content later point in time. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so everything looks good. So let me start recording in WebEx. So today we will be talking on a very, very important topic called collections. So collection is nothing but um, uh, elements which needs to be processed together. So, for example, as part of as part of exploring classes and objects, we have seen a few classes related to a data model called retail DB. Okay, if you go back and if you recollect, when I talk about classes, towards the end of this session, towards the end of the material, we have seen different classes for different type of data which we want to have as part of a retail based application. So we have department, we have category, we have product, we have customer, we have order item, etc. So if I want to get some insights, for example, if I want to see how many orders are completed successfully in a given day, how many orders are cancelled, etc., we need to get multiple order objects and we have to process them together. So getting that multiple orders based upon certain criteria and storing it into a data structure, there the collection comes into picture. Okay, so now if you go back to the material for collections, first let us start with understanding the few basics of collections, and then we will see different types of collections. Also, we will see what kind of operations we can perform on those collections, etc. Okay. So we will start with the lesson. The lesson name is collections and tuples. Tuples is a bit different, but it is also primarily to a different data structure which can be used to perform certain operations, which we will see a bit later. Okay, and these are the advantages of Scala collections. They are very easy to use, and they are concise, they are safe, fast, and universal. You can actually understand these terms when we actually talk about the hierarchy and how they have categorized different collections. Okay, so before actually getting into the details, let us see how we can actually create a basic collection. So if I want to create a collection of range of numbers, okay, when it comes to Scala, it's very straightforward. You can launch Scala REPL, or you can also use worksheet in IntelliJ. And to create a collection of range of numbers, let's say I want to create a collection from 5 to 10. Okay, so it actually creates something called a range, and you can see 5 to 10 numbers here. Okay, it's very straightforward to create collections. If you want to use 5 to 100, you just say 5 to 100, it will create a collection for range of numbers. If you want to increment by 2, I guess you can do 5 to 100 by 2, and you can actually get collection of all the odd numbers from 5 to 100 because we started with 5. Okay, like that we can actually create a collection of range of numbers which are incremented uniformly. This is basic way of creating collections, and we will also see example about how we can manipulate collections here. You might not be able to understand it completely, but we'll see more about APIs that are part of collections. Once you understand those things, you will start admiring all those APIs. Okay, one of the basic example from, let's say, 1 to 100. is I just want to get only the even numbers, and then I want to add those even numbers. Sorry, I want to get only the even numbers and square them. Each of the even numbers should be squared, and I want to get some of those numbers. Okay. So first thing is I just want to get even numbers. If I have to do it in traditional manner, how I will do? I will say for loop like this. This is the syntax from 1 to 100. You can use by, or you can actually say 2 to 100 by 2, and then you can say okay, before that we need to create the result. So where res equal to 0, and then for loop, in that I can say res equal to res plus e. Before that I want to multiply. As part of it, I also want to get power of 2 for each of the element, so that we can actually square the numbers and then add to the result. So this is how we typically write, right? And you will get the sum of squares of even numbers between 2 to 100 or 1 to 100 by using this logic. Okay, this is conventional way of processing the data. Again, here this is unique to Scala. If you want to do it in Java, you have to use for I equal to 0 or 2, I equal to I plus 2, and you have to have exit condition also, I less than or equal to 100, and then you have to write it in a loop. Okay, so but the Scala alternative in traditional way of processing is like this. But the more functional way of implementing the logic is by using certain APIs. So here I just want to identify the even numbers. Okay, we can create range directly like this, or we can also apply a different kind of logic. Okay, so in this case we are trying to filter only for even numbers. We want to discard the odd numbers, get only the even numbers, and we want to square them up, and then we want to add to get the final result. So what we can say is 1 to 100. Okay, as we want to only to get even numbers, which means we want to filter out the odd numbers, I can actually apply filter and then give the parameter name, and then r mod 2 equal to 0. So it will only get the even numbers. You might not be able to understand the syntax straight away. We will see that in detail a little bit later. For now, just remember that I'm trying to filter for even numbers, discarding all the odd numbers. And then I want to square each and every number before adding. So for each and every record, which is part of this collection of even numbers, I want to apply a transformation. And one of the way to apply the transformation is by using a function called map. Okay, so here I'm using a function called map, and R represents each and every element in the collection. Okay, and I just want to square each of those numbers. So I can say R multiplied by R. Once I applied the transformation on each and every record to square them up, I want to add those numbers, and for that we have to aggregate. Either we can use reduce or fold. You can use either of them. Let us use reduce. Okay, and here it takes 2 parameters. Hence, we have to put it in brackets. So let us name them as total, comma element, total plus element. So here I will not be explaining all the functions, but I would like you to understand why we have to pass 2 parameters for reduce. So if you go back to the conventional approach, we have created a variable called result, and we are trying to add the squares to that result so that we can get the final sum of squares. So in this case also, after applying the map function, we are creating a global variable. So tot is like res here. It's a global variable to which we are actually adding. Even though we are saying tot plus CLE, internally what it will do is it will maintain the state of tot, which will be aggregated after each and every iteration. It is kind of a global variable like res. And then second one is the actual element from the map function. Okay, so we are actually getting the squares of numbers from a collection in the form of element, and we are adding to a global variable called tot. Okay, and finally tot will have the squares of sum of squares of numbers, and it will return the result 171,700. So this one is more conventional. Okay, if there is no such notation as 2 to 100 by 2, if this option is not available, then we have to use if condition to get the even numbers, and then we have to square them up and add it. Okay, here we have the by 2 option. That's why we are not using if condition. Otherwise, we have to use if condition also. Okay, so this is more functional in nature. This is more imperative in nature. Okay, and as part of using collections, you should get used to functional programming style. Only then you will be very comfortable with Spark. Otherwise, you will get lost somewhere, and it is very tough to understand Spark. So make sure you understand collections and the APIs in the collections, and make sure you are able to write functional programming while using Spark APIs. And the APIs on the collections will be strong foundation for APIs in the Spark. And you see significant overlap also for some of the APIs. We will see that as we proceed. Okay, so this is a brief, a simple example just to get you used to what we are going to face. You might not be able to understand everything as of now, but probably today and by tomorrow's first half of the session, you should be clear on all the collections. So here you can see the hierarchy of collections. These are all traits. Traits are nothing but similar to interfaces in Java. It's a bit more than interfaces. They also provide behavior. It's kind of mix of abstract class and interface. Don't worry too much about it at this time to dig deep about trait and what is there and all. For now, just remember that this traversable, iterable, sort, set, map, indexed sequence, linear sequence, sorted set, bit set, sorted map are all traits. They will come with some methods that are already implemented, and some of them there will be just the declaration of the method, and the child classes will have the implementation for it. And those child classes you don't need to develop. There is a bunch of other classes which are already available as part of the Scala collections package. So here the question from Bala is, can we use 2 to 100 by 2 instead of filter? Yeah, it's already I have shown. When I say 5 to 100 by 2, it got only odd numbers. But I just want to show you the purpose of filter. So instead of just even or odd, which we can achieve by 2, if you want to get odd numbers and square those odd numbers and then get the total, then you have to provide the functionality which returns true for odd number and which returns false for for prime number, and which returns false for odd or even numbers which are not prime. Okay, so depending upon the functionality, you have to depending upon your requirement, you have to override the functionality of the you have to implement the functionality as part of the filter API. Okay, so even you can definitely achieve this, but if you want to get the prime numbers and do the get the square of square of sum of square of the prime numbers, then you will not be able to use this. You have to use filter only, and you have to provide the functionality as part of the filter. Okay, so just to demonstrate the use of filter, I have showed this. Otherwise, you can use 2 to 100 by 2 also. So traversable is a trait. Travis is asking a very good question, Travis. Is it true that for loop executes sequentially while the filter method can be applied in parallel? Yes, you are exactly right. Not only filter method, even if you look at fold, okay, unless you use fold left or fold right to aggregate, or reduce left or reduce right, fold and reduce can perform certain tasks in parallel. Okay, so you can actually take care of certain APIs in parallel. This is another advantage of using the functional aspect, functional way of programming, and you don't need to worry too much about how you want to take care of multi-threading or multitasking. So what do we mean by parallel? Okay, we are getting a bit out of context, Amog. It's a very fundamental question. You will understand when we actually start talking about Spark. For now, just ignore it if you don't understand the term parallel. Okay, so parallel means instead of one guy doing the entire stuff, we will delegate the task to multiple people. They will do whatever they can do in parallel, and there will be an aggregator who will aggregate the stuff. So we will see more about in action, more about it when we actually start talking about Spark. So if you don't understand it right away, don't worry too much about it. For now, just focus on the different APIs which comes out of the box as part of the Scala collection, and let us build the skills that are required for the Spark. Okay. So traversable is a trait with functionality of many common actions. So let me show you what all available as part of traversable. So for that, I am actually creating a variable called t traversable. Okay, and then I'm just creating a collection like this. Okay, so if so t is of type traversable now, and if I say t dot and hit tab, there are so many methods that are already available as part of the traversable, except for each there will be high level implementation also. Okay, only for each is the method where there is no any implementation as part of traversable. So traversable means you will be able to traverse through the collection. So any collection is kind of traversable because it is nothing but a set of homogeneous element or collection of homogeneous elements, and you should be able to traverse through those elements. So that's why the higher level function is traversable. Okay, sorry, higher level trait is traversable, and then we have iterable. Iterable have implementation for each, and then it has some abstract methods as part of it where the implementation is provided in other subtraits or subclasses. After iterable in the hierarchy, we have sequence, set, and map. Here you need to understand why they have categorized into sequence, set, and map. So Bala, you are jumping a bit ahead. So let's wait until we talk about mutable and immutable. And if you go through the content after covering this, the next topic will be mutable and immutable, and I will explain what is mutable and immutable at that time. Okay. So we have sequence, set, and map. So you might have heard about a linked list or list as part of your curriculum or as part of the projects you worked on using Java. So those sequence or the array are kind of sorry, the lists or arrays are categorized under sequence. So what are the common attributes for list and array? It will have fixed number of means it will have elements where there is a length, and it will not change until you delete or add values. So it have a length, and it have it should have two things. One is length or size, and there is one more. I'm not able to get it. Is it only with Piyush, or others also feeling my issues with my voice? If it is Piyush, then probably it could be the issue with him itself. If it is for everyone, probably there might be something on my side. So Piyush, Shakti have confirmed that it's clear for him. So please check your headset or your Wi-Fi connection, etc., to make sure that there's nothing wrong on your side. Because I'm connecting through Ethernet, and we never had issues with Ethernet. Okay. So set is so sequence. So array, list, etc. are categorized under sequence. There is a length for it, and you should be able to access the elements with index. Yes, the two things are length and index. Okay. And the second one is set. Set is nothing but if you go back to the mathematical definition of set, set should not have any duplicate elements. Okay, so there is no length associated with set, and also you every time you try to access an element using an index, set might not return the same value. So sequence and set are two different things. While dealing with elements, sequence can have duplicate elements, and if you use index to access a element in a sequence, it will always return the same value unless you modified it. Whereas set, it contains unique values. There won't be any duplicates. So there is no length, and also index might, when you try to access an element from set using index, it might give different result. Map is key value pairs, where you store data in the form of keys and values, and you will be able to access through key rather than index. So that's the difference between sequence, set, and map. Don't worry too much if you don't understand at this time. There are separate topics for sequence, set, and map. And once we go through it, if you do not understand, you can revise once again, and definitely it will be clear for you. Okay. So these are the methods that are already available in traversable. Traversable is very, very important trait, and you need to understand that thoroughly. So for each is an abstract method. The implementation is part of iterable. And as you can see, after traversable in the hierarchy, we have iterable. Each of the sequence, set, and map trait implement iterable. Hence, any concrete class which comes under sequence, set, or map automatically get the functionalities from traversable, whatever that are defined here. Okay. So you can use these APIs in most of the collections, collection data structures directly. We have already seen map, where we actually pass a even number from our collection. Once we got the collection, we filtered in the even numbers, and each element of the even number is transformed into square by using map. We have already seen that. So we will see collect and all those things as we proceed further. We also have seen reduce. So as time proceeds, you have to be as comfortable as possible with these APIs. We will not be able to explore all the options, but depending upon the scenario, you have to review these APIs and determine which one is suitable for you, and you have to start using it. Okay. So I will be covering approximately 15 to 20 APIs while going through different collection structures, and these 15 to 20 are extensively used as part of Spark also. Either directly or the derivatives of the 15 to 20 will be used as part of Spark as well. Okay, so that is about a brief introduction on Scala collections. So tuple is different. Tuple is not a collection. It does not implement or extend any of the class we have seen in the hierarchy. The major difference between collections and tuples are typically collections are homogeneous. So each and every element in a collection belongs to one particular family, whereas tuple, you can have heterogeneous elements, and we can actually have a tuple of collection or collection of tuples also. So, and we will see tuples also quite extensively as part of tuples, and it is also very, very important for Spark perspective. Okay, now comes mutable and immutable, what Bala was asking earlier. Okay, so some of the collections are designated as mutable, some of the collections are designated as immutable, which means the collection can be updated once it is created. So val and var are different, and mutable and immutable collections are different. We will see an example a little bit later. Okay. So so if you want to extend further of whatever we have seen, all these blue, uh, uh, I don't know what is that shape, probably oval, very close to oval. All this blue stuff, green stuff are traits. I am very poor at colors. I'm not sure whether it is green or whatever it is. So whatever color we are seeing for traversable, iterable set, sorted set, etc., is primarily traits, and these blue ones are concrete classes. Okay, vector, numeric range, string, range, list, stream, queue, stack, etc. Even string is a kind of a collection in Scala. Okay, and then we have mutable. So this is the hierarchy for the mutable. You can just go through this blog post and get the list. You can also go to the official documentation and try to get insights about these classes. Okay, so the major difference between mutable and immutable collections are, mutable collections have a method called update, where the elements in the collection can be updated. Whether it is mutable, whether it is val or var, it doesn't matter. So here is a example for mutable collection. Okay, so I'm creating an array. Now you can see that I'm able to update the first element in array to 4, and you can see the final result. Even though the variable is immutable, I'm able to update the elements in place. So mutable collections will come with additional functionality for update, where we can actually do in place updates for the elements that are part of mutable collection. Similarly, if I create list, and if I say L of 0 equal to 4, you can see value update is not a member of list. So there is no function called update. That's why it is failing. That's the only difference between mutable and immutable variables when it comes to implementation by Scala developers who developed Scala. Okay, so mutable have functionality for update, which will let us updating the elements in place, whereas immutable collection, there is no functionality for update. Here both A and L are immutable variables of collection type. One is array type, other one is list type. Array is mutable collection and list is immutable collection. So don't mix up this thing with mutable and immutable collections. It can be confusing for some of the folks, but you have to overcome that confusion by practicing as much as possible and by understanding these errors. Okay. No Shakti, val is not ignored. So in this case, let us say I want to say A of 4 equal to 5. Give array index out of bounds exception, it's a different thing. So val, when it comes to val, right, if I just try to create a new array, not a new array, yeah, let me do this, 4, 5, comma 6. So here you can see it is complaining that you are trying to reassign to val. You are trying to change the collection itself. And you are trying to change it by reassigning, and it will not let you do that. So that's what your question is due to the confusion of the val and var against the mutable and immutable collections. These two are two different things, and to overcome that you have to practice, then only we'll be able to understand the actual difference. So yes, so elements are mutable or immutable. That's correct. That's a correct statement, Shakti. When it comes to mutable collection, elements are mutable. If it is a immutable collection, elements are immutable. That's exactly correct. And when I is saying, if I say var L equal to list, do this also give error. Let us try var L equal to list. Nothing. It doesn't throw error. It have created the collection of nothing. Okay, whenever you use var or val, it will destroy the. It will only let you do it as part of the REPL. If you try to create val l and var l as part of one program in the paste mode or something, it will not work. Okay, so there are two things. One, let us try to define two variables with same name. Control D, it does not let us because it is already defined once. You are trying to define another time with the same name. That is one kind of issue which you need to understand. But when you use REPL, when you try to redefine any variable, it will actually destroy the earlier reference and it will create a new thing. So Suman is asking, can we create a mutable list? Yes, you can, but you have to come up with your own functionality. I think there are some mutable lists already. Vector, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't touched vector that much. I will primarily focus on list, array, set, and hash map. These four are the ones which I will be focusing on as part of today's and tomorrow's session. I will not touch vector, so I'm not 100% sure about vector. Okay, so Balmorley is val cannot be changed, but the array elements can be changed. That is because array is mutable and a is value non-immutable. That is correct. That is correct. So here elements in the array are mutable. Okay, someone is not on mute. Please go on to mute. We can hear coughing. So please go on to mute. Okay, so now let us go on to the next topic. Next topic is sequence. Again, here is the official documentation. I have created material based upon the official documentation itself. And I will highly recommend you to understand the official documentation as much as you can. You should be, once you understand the core principles of any programming language, you should be very comfortable in using official documentation as reference. So as I have mentioned to you earlier, sequence have length. Elements in sequence can be accessed using prefix. Scala array, Scala collection, immutable list, etc. are examples of sequence collections. Classes are divided into sequence classes and buffer classes. Vector and list are considered as sequence classes, and they are more frequently used in typical Scala collections. Array is special type of collection analogous to Java array. We'll get into details of array and list as part of this these sessions. Array is mutable while list is immutable, which we have already seen. Sequence have two subtraits, indexed sequence and linear sequence. Okay. So classes such as array, vector implement indexed sequence, and classes such as list implement linear sequence. So here you need to understand difference between indexed sequence and linear sequence. So linear sequence are implemented in the form of linked list. So here you need to understand what a linked list is. So if you have 10 elements in a collection, each element will have a value and the address of the next element in the collection. Okay. So the advantage of that is, if you want to process the data, you just have to traverse through it in a linear fashion, and you will be able to. So Balmurli is saying no. I don't know. Yes, Bala. What is that mean? Okay, that is fine. I think he's trying to chat with someone on private, and he might have typed it to everyone. That is fine. Okay. So linked list. You have to go back to your college books and need to recollect what a linked list is. If you have 10 elements in a linked list, each element will have a value and then address to the next element in the linked list. And if you have to traverse through it, it will, and if you want to process the entire data set, traversing through it is the through each and every element is the fastest way. Whereas indexed sequence, it will be it it will provide an index for each and every element, and accessing individual elements in random fashion is much faster when it comes to indexed sequences. So if you want to use Scala collections, if you want to read elements randomly based upon certain condition from a collection, then you have to use indexed sequence. But if you have to traverse through the entire list, then you have to go for linear sequence. So these are the difference between indexed sequence and linear sequence. And whether you use indexed sequence or linear sequence, the APIs are similar. Okay. So for example, if I create val L equal to list 1, 2, 3, 4, and val A equal to array hello world, how are you? Okay, and also I will create another array or list, whatever it is, and I will mix up the things. Earlier I made a statement that collections are homogeneous whereas tuples are heterogeneous, but still it will let us to create a collection like this. We have a double value 2.0, we have two strings hello and world, we have an integer 1. Okay, and if you see, even though we are actually storing elements of different type, the list is automatically converted to any. Okay, if you have class hierarchy, and if you create elements, for example, there is a class called animal, or there is a trait called animal, and there are classes called rabbit, lion, dog, etc. And if you try to create elements, a list of different types of animals like rabbit, lion, tiger, dog, etc., it will automatically change it to list animal. Okay, so it will identify the hierarchy, and it will go to the next level in the hierarchy. It will not directly go to any in all the cases. Here 1 and 2.0, which are integer and float, belong to value class family, and string belong to indexed sequence within the collections, and all these things are actually converged at any level. So both the value classes and other classes inherit from any, hence it has gone to any. Okay, so even though theoretically it might sound like you are creating heterogeneous elements, internally it will be represented as homogeneous elements only. Whereas in case of tuple, you can actually maintain the elements with their heterogeneity. The elements will not be considered as similar, and we will see that when we talk about tuple. Okay, so here if you want to access an element, okay, you can actually say, sorry, a of 1. So a is the array of strings, and a of 1 return the second element in it. Okay, similar is the case with L of 1, it will get the second element. But if you compare the performance of these two, this one will be faster because it is built as indexed sequence, whereas this is built as linear sequence. Even though you can get the results, this will be a bit slower compared to this one. Okay, and then you have length. So if you want to get the length of elements, you just have to say a dot length or L dot length. It will give the length of elements. Okay, you can get the index, a dot index of 1. It is not there, that's why it is written -1. Whereas L dot index of 1, it is the first element in the list, that's why it returns 0. Okay, and then adding elements to the collection. So either you can add new element to the collection, or you can actually add another collection to the collection. So there are these two different things. So let us see whether I will be whether I will be able to add element to both list and array. So this is the syntax. Okay, x plus colon xs, a new sequence that consists of x prepends to xs. So if you have two sequences, x and xs, if you want to prepend, you have to say x plus colon xs. So let's try with array. This is Durga from IT University saying. That is one array. And if I want to prepend, the syntax is plus colon, and then we already have an array. So you can see a new array prepended to the existing one. So it did not actually. So here you can see this array have one array as first element, one collection as first element, and then the rest of the stuff, whatever elements we have as part of a, we got it. And you can see now the type is serializable rather than string. Okay. So if you want to add each element at a time, if you want to prepend each element at a time, you should not use plus colon. Plus colon is primarily to prepend existing collection, prepend one collection to another collection. Okay, so you can say saying, let me see. Yeah, I think this is the right way. So I think I did not understand this thoroughly. Yeah, so a new sequence that consists of x prepends to xs. So has new array has been created, or the existing array has been modified. That you can see it here. Okay, so now the variable name is res16. So it is an implicit variable. So a new variable is created. It is not modifying the existing variable. If you want to modify the existing variable, you have to say var a. You have to create as a mutable variable, and then you can actually prepend to the existing variable by saying a equal to saying plus colon a. Okay, let me show you that. Let me copy this thing. Okay, now it's a mutable variable a. If I want to prepend, I just have to say a equal to saying a. Okay. Now it gave something else. Yeah, it gave array of string. Let me see a dot for each println. Yeah. So I don't know why it is showing like this now, but and the elements looks good. Okay. So this is how you can actually assign it to the variable. As long as it is mutable, you can update it. If it is immutable, this will not work. If I declare a as val, I cannot prepend to the existing immutable variable. Okay. So this is how you can add element to the collection, or either prepend, or you can append also. There will be some minus also, and you can go through these APIs and you can understand. I will highly recommend to play with these APIs as much as possible. And if you have any questions, you can write it in discuss.itverse.com, or even you can discuss on our WhatsApp group, which is going on for this training. So Sandeep is saying, can we add a value in between, like a of 2 instead of prepend? You can update. Okay, so but can we move the existing elements? No, that is not possible. We can update the second element with a new value, but we will not be able to move the entire array and insert an element into it. That is not possible unless you destroy it and recreate it. Okay, you can go to the APS. If you go to the APS, probably you will get all the features that are available. And one more way of exploring the APIs is you can just say a dot and hit tab, and you see these are the APIs that are available. And we have update also because array is mutable. Whereas if I say L dot and hit tab, you will not see the update. You have updated. Updated is different. Because the list is immutable, you don't see that update function. So do the address get updated for existing elements in array? I'm not sure, Piyush. I'm not sure about whether the addresses will get updated or only elements will get updated. I think only elements will get updated. I don't think addresses will change. I don't know how internally it will manage. So we have seen few APIs so far. Okay, those are, you can actually type history, and we have seen length, we have index of, etc. And also we have seen how to manipulate the collections. So you can also say a dot hit tab, and you can see all the operators or functions that are available to manipulate them. So plus plus is primarily to append or prepend. Plus is primarily to add. Okay, whereas slash is to remove. I think these are to remove the elements from the collection. Okay. So there is one more question. No, those two are not similar. Okay, so if I say L specify, it actually created a new variable called res18. It is an implicit variable. Okay, so L equal to L specify will not work because L is declared as immutable variable. Okay, so those two are two different things. You are trying to append to the existing collection. It depends upon whether you have defined L as val or var. If the L is defined as var, yes, definitely you can run L equal to L colon plus 5, and the element will be appended to the existing collection, and it will be reassigned to the mutable variable L. Okay. So that being said, now we will actually explore a few other options. We have already seen earlier filter, map, reduce, etc. Now we will try to understand them a bit thoroughly, and also we will try to use them in a bit realistic example rather than just using on regular collections. We will try to use them a bit realistic example. Okay, for that first we will revisit whatever we have done earlier, the filter, map, etc. Okay, so here again I'm creating a variable called L 0 to 1000 and then to list. So I'm creating a collection of elements. So almost all the collections have this to list, to set, to array functions. So you can actually change one collection to another collection by using these two functions. Okay, here 0 to 1000 is originally of type range. Okay, so from range I am converting into list by using toList function. Okay, so now L is of type list of integers from 0 to 1000, and I just want to identify the even numbers square them up, and then add them to get the sum of squares of integers between sum of squares of even numbers between 0 to 1000. Okay, so now we will revisit again. So first thing, filter, right? Because I want to get only the even number. So let me name the new collection as events, and then L dot filter. And if you hit tab twice, you will get the syntax. And can you guys recollect what is this? What does that mean? What does this mean? So I have covered quite a bit, quite extensively about this. No, that is not return type. No, it is not Boolean. You can type here. You can type. So Praveen and Balamurli are a bit correct. So it's a function that takes p as parameter and returns true or false as value. Okay. So we have to. So it's a parameter which takes functionality as value. So when we actually invoke filter, we need to provide functionality to it. Okay, and that functionality has to take one parameter of type integer. So here, why it is integer? Because our collection L is of type integer. Now, if I actually try to do it on A dot filter, what is our A? A is collection of strings, and you can see automatically it changed the expected behavior of the function which we need to pass. So Scala is smart enough to make these decisions. Okay, so internally filter takes a parameter of type a function which takes a parameter of type any type. It could be integer, it could be string, it could be any type, and then it actually returns Boolean. So the only common thing across all filters functionalities are it returns only true or false. So to satisfy this, we have to pass one parameter and we have to return true or false. So if I just say, let me go back to L dot filter. Okay, and the parameter name, let us name it as p itself. Okay, and we don't need to explicitly say this. It can infer based upon what type of list we are trying to process. L is of type list, which will contain integers as elements. So here, as the elements are of type integers, it will automatically infer the type of parameter, which is integer. And if I just say true, true is a Boolean value. I think I have to. Okay. Okay, I think I have to put the expression identifier expected but true found. I think okay. So she have given this to Boolean. I don't think you should use that. Probably you might want to use like this. I'm not sure. I think it should be like this. No, anyway, let me go back to the functionality itself. Let me try this also just to make sure that I believe it will not work, but let's see. Because two functions does not take the parameters, but we never know. So that is not all. That is also not correct. But let us say p mod 2 equal to 0. So there is something wrong. Let me quit. I'm starting Scala again. Sometimes this kind of issues will not pop up. Okay, identifier expected, but integer literal found. Okay, I know. This is not. Uh, 1 minute. Yeah, that is correct, Sri. I think that will work. So if I define the data type, I have to put it in the circular bracket. Thank you very much, Sri. I think this should fix the issue. If I do not specify the data type, we don't need to specify in the circular bracket. Now let us now see. So that is the problem. Here I want to explicitly define the parameter type. That's why it was complaining. Okay, if I remove this, even with this, also it will work. So here, for each and every value, I'm returning true. As I'm returning true, it got all the numbers. Now, if I want to get only the even numbers, I need to use P. Thank you very much, Sri. You saved my time. Otherwise, I would not have troubleshooted that fast. And now we got only the even numbers. So evens is collection of even numbers. This P mod 2 double equal to 0 is actually returning true or false. If it is true, the values will be considered and a new collection will be created of type list, and each element is of type integer. If it is false, it will be discarded completely. So now events is the new collection which is created as output to this filter function. Now I want to apply a transformation on each of these numbers and square them, and then I want to add. Okay, for that we have map function. So events is a collection of type list, and each element is integer. And we already filtered out odd numbers, so events only have the even numbers. Now I am using map. Again, if you hit tab twice, you will see the syntax of map. Okay, and here also you can see it takes a function which takes a parameter of type integer. Again, this integer is derived from what the elements of the type of elements of the collection which we are trying to process. Events is a list of integers, so that's why here the parameter is of type int, and the return type is b. What does that mean? So it all depends upon what you want to return. It could be anything. It could be integer, it could be string, it could be anything. In this case, we will be returning integer. Okay, and then there is some implicit function which we don't need to worry about. Okay, and then that is just a generic information which it is passing to us. So the outcome of this map function will be a collection of type that, which is whatever we try to return as part of the functionality. The collection will be of type that. So that is just informational. Okay, so here let us name it as f integer. So f is the parameter name of type integer. So when you think about implementation perspective, events is the collection on which we are trying to use map function, and each element will be treated as and this map function will be invoked as many elements we have as part of the events collection. And sorry, not the map function, but the functionality which we are providing will be invoked as many elements we have in the collection. Okay, and in each iteration, it actually take one element from the collection and do whatever we want. Okay, so here I just want to square up the values by saying element multiplied by element. And now if you hit enter, you can see you have squares of each of the even numbers which we have filtered earlier. We have transformed into squares by applying map function. And then if you want to get the reduce function, if you want to get the total of it, final total equal to squares dot reduce Okay, you can also use fold. Fold and reduce are same, but try to use reduce as much as possible, because as part of Spark, we have only reduce, we don't have fold. And if you see in the reduce, we have reduce left, reduce right, etc. So reduce will work in distributed fashion. If you have a very big collection, and if you want to process in parallel, you should start using reduce or fold. You should not use reduce left or reduce right. If you use reduce left or reduce right, it will go in sequence. It will not be distributed. Okay, so reduce, and then as I have mentioned to you earlier, reduce takes two parameters. One is aggregator. Let's name it as total, and element. Okay, and let us add element to the total. That is what it means here. And then final total will be sum of squares of even numbers. So we have covered map, reduce, filter as part of this exercise. I hope you are comfortable with this. I will highly recommend you to practice as much as possible. So Sri, you are jumping a bit ahead. Reduce by key is not a Scala collection. Reduce by key is Spark. So don't bring up those reduce by key, group by key, etc. when we are just talking about Scala. We'll talk about those things when we actually talk about Spark. Okay. So you will be confused because map, reduce, etc. you will be seeing in Scala as well as Spark. Okay. No need to be sorry. It is quite common that you guys get confused, but you should be able to determine whether you are trying to use a Scala based API or Spark based API. There is a difference in the implementation, even though function names are same. Okay, Amog is asking, can you please repeat tot and element of reduce function? Okay, I will definitely re-emphasize on it, because it is very, very important for you to understand. So the traditional way of getting total, how will you do that? You will create a global variable which should be immutable. So it could be total, or let's name it as aggregator, or result. Let's name it as result. You have to initialize. So I have initialized to 0. And then you take a collection and assign it to element. That's the name it as E. And what is the collection? The collection is squares. We want to take the elements from the squares. Okay. So as part of the for loop, we are trying to loop through the squares one element at a time. Okay. And then we will say result equal to result plus E. Once the for loop is done, what result will have? Each element will be added to the existing result. Result will be reset after each iteration. You can also see, 1 minute. So println value of result after, let me see. So here I will say val res equal to 0, var counter equal to 1. Okay. Then for E squares, here I need to write multiple lines of code. That's why I opened the curly braces. And let me say, yeah, first let me println value of res after operation is plus res. Okay. And then I want to increment CTR. I can say CTR plus equal to 1 or CTR equal to CTR plus 1. And then I want to add each element to the result. So I can say res plus equal to element, or I can also say res equal to res plus element. Okay, and then I close it. Okay, it should be E. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay. S plus equal to E. It's a syntax error. Again, it's a syntax error. It should be S plus equal to E. Now you see, we have 500 elements. So after each iteration, after first iteration, operation is 0 because we started with S equal to 0. And after the second iteration, because 0 is considered to be even number as part of our logic, it added 0 to 0. The outcome is 0 itself. After the third iteration, where actually I can miss the I can skip the first one, so just ignore the first one. After first iteration it will be 0. After second iteration the 4 will be added to result as part of this conventional way of programming. After third iteration 16 will be added to 4 because the next square of even number is 16 after 4. 4 square is 16. So like that, every time the result is reset, and finally we got the sum of all the squares in the end, and rest will have this number, right? So that is traditional way of programming. Now I want to do it in functional approach. So to aggregate, they provide a function called reduce. Okay, as it takes a aggregator, and we have to iterate through elements, and we have to add element to the aggregator. We have to pass a tuple to reduce. Okay, if you see the syntax of the reduce, you see it takes two elements, okay, and returns a final outcome. It is not collection anymore. The outcome of the reduce is a aggregated result, so it will not be collection. It will be a single value. Okay, so here we have total, or whatever name you want to give, and element, and then I am saying total plus element. And after each iteration in the collection squares, the element is added to the total, which is nothing but aggregator or result, if you think from the conventional way of programming as I have shown earlier. Okay, so this is functional approach of writing for loop and adding the elements from the collection, and then outcome will be whatever is the sum of all the elements. If you want to actually see what is happening in action by printing lines the way we have done, you can say like this: print ln value of total. Again, you can have a global variable and increment it, and you can check the iteration also. Here I'm not doing that. Okay, value of total is this one, and then total plus element. I have to put one more bracket. Okay, you can see here. So before starting, most likely total will be 0. It will be initialized to 0 implicitly. We don't need to explicitly say that. And then after the first iteration, the first element is 0. So hence value of total is 0. After the second iteration, 4 is added to 0. So total will be 4 now. After the third iteration, 16 will be added to the existing total, which is 4. So 20. After the fourth iteration, 36, which is 6 square, will be added to 20. That's why you got 56. So on and so forth. Okay, again, you need to practice. Some people might not even understand after so much of explanation. If you practice now with some things going in your background, you will be definitely be able to digest it. Okay. So that is about the usage of map, reduce, filter, etc. So Shakti is saying reduce works on complete collection of elements and return only one value and not a list of elements again. So you should not compare at that level first. Okay, first you should think from the functional angle. So if you ask me the difference between filter, map, and reduce, what you will say is filter is used to create a new collection based upon certain criteria. Map is used to create a new collection based upon certain transformation rule, and reduce is used for aggregating the results. And then, yeah, the side effect of that is filter will have subset of your data, map will have a newly transformed data, and reduce will have one element based upon the aggregating function. If it is min, you will get the minimum value. If it is max, you will get maximum value, etc. So Gopi is asking there are some functions like sum, min, max, etc. That is right, but I just want to show how you should think through the problem and how you should implement those things. So in this case, if you just say, once you get events, once you get squares, you can also say dot sum, and you will get the same results. But I just want to show that in action. Okay, if you want to get the minimum number, you can actually say squares dot min. It will return 0. And if you say squares of max, it will give the max number. Okay. I will give you, you can take up the task of implementing min and max using reduce. That way you will get more comfortable with writing a Scala piece of code as part of reduce. Okay, you might have to use if condition and try to get the minimum value and maximum value. Instead of using min and max directly, think through how to implement that functionality as part of the reduce function to get the min and max value of a given collection. Now, to make it a little bit more interesting, let us put it in the context of a bit real world example. We have already seen creating the classes like order, creating the case class like order. If you go through my material as part of the object-oriented concepts and all, I have covered all these things. So if you forget those things, you have to review, and then it might make a bit more sense. If you could not make sense out of what I'm talking, certain things you might have to review. You are free to ask the questions. If you have to review certain things, I will tell what should be reviewed. Otherwise, I will answer the question. Don't hesitate to ask the questions. Okay, so here I am creating a case class. So let us recollect what does that case class means. So case class will give a class and an object. Both class and object are serializable. Class also implements product, which gives additional functionality of product iterator and all those things. As it gives object with the same name, it is considered as companion object, and that companion object also have apply method. And if you see, even for the list and all, right? So when I actually say val l equal to list 1, 2, 3, 4, it actually we are not saying new list. We are only saying list 1, 2, 3, 4. So internally, there is an apply method on the list which we are invoking, and that apply method will take care of creating the necessary object internally. So there is a companion object and the apply method which is in action even with respect to list array, which we have already seen. So I'm not sure whether list is a class or not, but it has a companion object for sure. Okay, and also it has apply method. Okay, so now let us revisit using Java P function, Java P command order. So you get all these class variables, order ID, order date, customer ID, order status, etc. As we haven't specified val or var, by default all the attributes are immutable. That's why we see private final for each of these class attributes: order ID, order date, order customer ID, and also we have the get functions, get functions with the same name as the variable name: order ID, order date, order customer ID, order status, etc. On top of it, there are product arity, product prefix, product element, everything is implemented for you as part of the boilerplate bytecode which will be generated when we create the case class. Similarly, if you want to get the details about the companion object which will be created as part of the case class, you can see it is serializable, and you have the apply method. Okay, so now let me create a collection of type order. Okay, so here is the, so if I just want to create a Pramod is saying many of us are having prob with Java P. Most likely you have to go to the environment variables and set the Java home, and it should work. So please raise the ticket in discuss.itverse.com and share the ticket in our group. Those whoever have the Windows and get the Java P working, please respond on the ticket so that we can close this issue. Okay, so I will highly recommend you, Pramod, to go to discuss.itversity.com, create a topic, and share it within our WhatsApp group, which is going on for this training. And someone who already have the Windows laptop and have the solution for it, please respond to that so that the issue is closed. Most likely, the issue will be with environment variable. If you don't have environment variable Java home, that is when Scala will not be able to recognize your Java home, and you will be seeing the issue Java home not found. Okay, so if I want to create a single object, I can do like this, val o equal to. So order have 4 attributes, so we have to pass 4 values while invoking the order apply method. 1/2017/010 is the date which is passed as a string, and then I think this is order customer ID, and this is order status. Okay, so this is individual element. If you want to create the collection, you can decide whether you want to go with a list or array or set, depending upon your requirements. For now, we will only focus on list. But once we actually cover array or maps as well as sets, you have to revisit your problem statement, and based upon your problem statement and the solution you want to come up, you have to use the appropriate collection. Okay, so here I am creating a collection, and you can see the collection is of type list, and each element in the list is of type order, which means we have collection of order objects, and you can see each element here. Okay, now let me get the count of completed orders from this list. Okay, so what we have to do first, we need to identify the completed orders, and then we have to get the count. Okay, so how to go ahead with it? We can say os dot. Okay, to get the completed orders, we can say filter, and you can actually hit tab and see the syntax. Now you can see each, we need to provide functionality which takes element of type order and returns Boolean. Okay, so the implicit implementation of the filter will be using this functionality to apply that logic. The same way we have done with if you go to functions and operators, the same way we have seen as part of higher order and anonymous functions, in the same manner, it will try to invoke the logic which you are passing using the code that is part of the filter that is already developed by them, by Scala developers, okay, or Scala collection developers. So we have to provide the functionality which will be used internally by them. So the functionality is, I just want to check whether the fourth, so each have the structure. There are 4 elements, right? Order ID, order state, order date, order customer ID, and order status. I want to see whether order status is complete, and I want to get only those things, and then I want to get the count. As Srini said, filter and reduce. Yeah, that is correct. You can use filter and reduce, or you can also use filter and there is one more function which is directly available. I think it is either it is length. You can directly use filter and length. You don't need to use reduce. But if you want to see how reduce can be used in action, you can use reduce. Okay. So as part of the filter, P is of type order, and P have 4 elements, right? Order ID, order date, order status, and order customer ID. We are trying to compare the order status. So we can use P dot order status. So here we are actually invoking the get function by saying P dot order status. Okay, so we are trying to get the order status and see if it is completed. And hit enter. Now we have only completed orders. And if you want to get the number of completed orders after filter, you can use length and you will get the completed orders. Okay, so that is how you can use Scala APIs on more a bit complicated structure. So here the collection is list, but the each element in the list is not value classes, objects of value classes. They are actually our classes which we will be using as part of our programs. So in case if you have to deal with such kind of stuff, you can create a list of your classes, objects of your classes, and you can actually process by using the filter, map, reduce, etc. Okay. So if you have to write it in traditional fashion, what you have to do? You have to say for O. First you have to say where. You have to give the collection name. Let's say the collection is O equal to, let's say it is type list. Okay, we have created list of nothing, and then we have to say for E OS, and then you have to write if condition, if E dot order status equal to complete, then only you have to add it to the global variable O. Probably you want to append. You can say O equal to O colon plus B. Okay, so first I have to initialize to list of order, not list of nothing. So let me first list of order 1 comma hello world comma 1 comma hello world. There should be a way to ignore this, but we will not be writing in conventional approach. Just to work around it, I just created initialize the list to list of order type like this. There should be a way to overcome this issue. Okay, and then let me copy this one. O equal to O plus E. Now if I say O, we got all the completed orders into it. So instead of writing this approach, we just used filter, and we just wrote this piece of code, and it got the new collection which are containing the completed orders. Now you will start admiring the advantage of filter. The same logic, if you need to implement, it's a bit complicated. You have to initialize the global variable, you have to iterate through it, and you have to deal with how to initialize properly and all those things. So with functional approach, It's a bit straightforward. So Shakti is asking if you want to use reduce instead of length, then it will be like dot reduce length comma ACC. Yeah, probably that could be the one way, or we might have to uh, use let me think about it. If I want to get the count of completed orders, let me try writing it. Okay, instead of length, reduce. Okay, length comma element, length plus 1. Okay, so here the filter is actually getting the completed order. Okay, so as the element, so here why it is not working is len is of type integer, is of type order. Okay, so if I hit tab now, it is very important to understand how to get the syntax of these things. You can see there is a alias for order with name a1. So both the elements in the tuple which we are talking as a parameter, which we are passing as a parameter, are of type order. So here I am trying to add one to length which is of type order. That's why it did not work. So you cannot use reduce directly like this. You have to use map function first. Okay, and for each and if I use map and if I see the syntax, it takes element of type order and it can return anything which is of type B. So I can say map f, and then let me just say 1 here. For each and every element, I'm just tagging 1. Then I can use reduce. Now if I see the syntax, now a1 is of type integer. So both aggregator as well as the element is of type integer. So here I have to say total element, total plus element, and hit enter. Now you got the length. So you have to use map function also internally to transform the order object into an integer so that we can use it to add by using reduce. So it's very important to see the syntax every time you type it until you are very comfortable. So Bala is asking whether he can use OS of 3. Most likely yes. So let us try it. So here it is the name is P. Let's say P of 3 equal to complete, and let us see if it works or not. No, order does not take parameters, so it does not work. So Venkat is asking, can you repeat what map is doing in this context? So okay, let me go back. So the original question is whether one can use reduce. Okay, so if I try to use reduce, okay, so reduce expects two parameters, both are of type order, and if you directly add one to something, it will not to order, it will not work. You are actually violating certain rules which are defined as part of the reduce function. So you cannot use reduce directly. So to use reduce to get the count, first you have to transform each and every completed order into a numeric value 1 so that it can be added as added to get the total. Okay, so map function, I am transforming the order object into integer value 1 so that I can add the ones to get the final total. That's why as part of the map function, we just take the parameter and we are returning 1, which is of type integer, and eventually we are using reduce function to get the total. Okay, so but our array name is OS. Okay. So again, Bala, you have to actually start writing the code. Then you will not make these kind of mistakes. So here, OS is the object of type collection, and then we are using filter, and then we are actually creating the parameter of type each element in the collection. We have to use that only to check whether it is completed or not. You cannot use OS here. Okay, we have to use P only to do anything on top of it, whether we want to filter or map, etc. So this is not at all correct way of thinking. You should not use your collections directly as part of your functions. Within the scope also, I don't think it will be able to understand what OS is. Okay, so once you start writing these things and putting, so it's not that easy to digest in the beginning. You have to practice, you have to make the mistakes, and then you have to think through it and you will understand. So you should not use the OS of 3. There are certain areas when you can use OS 3. Instead of using objects, if you actually create the collections as string, then you have to, there is a function called split which you will be using and converting into an array, and then you will use this notation. Okay, so don't mix up the things. So for example, what I'm trying to say is, we are already past 4 minutes. We will continue tomorrow. Bala, you just remember this and ask me tomorrow about when we'll be using this notation in brackets. I will explain that. For now, we will move on because it will take time to reproduce that scenario and explain it. Okay, so Shakti is making a statement, map is just appending one to every row like in word count program in MapReduce. That is correct. So she is saying dot filter orders of order status equal to complete. No, it will not work. Okay, so here, Shri, please remind this also tomorrow. I will show how to use underscore also, what underscore actually mean if you want to use underscore. I will definitely cover that. These two are very valid questions, whatever Bala is asking and Shri is asking. So let us revisit these two things tomorrow. It's your responsibility to remind me, otherwise I might forget and I might go with the flow. Please remind these two. I will definitely cover these two things before moving forward and start talking about set and map. Okay. That being said, that's it for today, and we'll catch up tomorrow. It is very, very important to practice after today's session and tomorrow's session, and try to digest collections as much as possible. The more you are comfortable with Scala collections, the easier for you to digest Spark from implementation or writing code perspective. So make sure you understand collections thoroughly. You practice as much as you can. There are some good exercises also which will actually test your ability to understand the problem statement and use collections. So if you, and it is interesting also, there is exercise on the name of Scala collections here, and I have given a few details. I will also create a video to explain the problem statement, and it's primarily on 2014 Lok Sabha elections. So I have taken a task, and I have written a complex program using collection APIs, and then there are 5 exercises where you have to implement as part of your code. I will not be evaluating the results. You should be comfortable enough to write the code and also evaluate to make sure you are doing correct or not. But if you are stuck somewhere, I will be definitely helping you. Okay, I don't want to spend time whether you are doing correct way or not. Probably you can actually share the details with other guys and see if you got the results correct. Just share the details about the sanity checks, like the count of the stuff, etc., and see if they're matching with others. If they're matching, most likely it is correct. Otherwise, it is not. Okay. So that being said, if you have any questions, couple of questions, I will take it, and otherwise we will wrap up for today. But make sure you focus a lot on collections and try to get your head around them. and make sure you are very comfortable with respect to the collections. Okay, that is collections is the most important aspect to comfortably write Spark based code when we talk about Spark very soon. Okay, case classes, objects, classes, even though they are important from the programming language perspective, when it comes to processing data using Spark, you will not be using those things that often. But collections you will be using almost every time. It could be direct Scala collections, or it could be using Spark APIs. And there is a huge coupling between Scala collections and Spark APIs. Unless you understand Scala collections, it is very tough to digest Spark APIs. It's purely based on collections. Okay. Any question? Okay, then we'll catch up tomorrow. Those who are on YouTube, thank you very much for joining the session. As I have specified as part of the earlier itself, in the beginning of the session itself, this is primarily a backup for my live audience, but still we have people who are answering your questions. If you like the content and if you want environment to practice, especially as we are getting into Spark, you need an environment to practice. You might have appropriate laptop or not. If you if you don't have appropriate laptop, and if you need environment to practice, you can go to labs.itversity.com, sign up for our platforms, and you can actually start practicing the Spark stuff, which will be covering probably starting from day after tomorrow. The reference material which I have covered today is part of this blog. Even tomorrow I will be covering those things, so you can actually follow this link, and you can actually go to the content. And if you want to raise any questions, we also provide free support. You can raise your topics on the discuss.itversity.com. You are also welcome to share your talent and start answering the questions. So I want to create a community-based platform where we can get our questions answered while we answer others' questions. Okay. And then if you like the content of this course and this video, please click on the like button. It means a lot to me. If you have to share with your friends, you can just click on share and share with your friends. If you want to provide feedback, please use the comment section of the video once the session is done and streaming is done, and I will try to fix if there are any issues from my side. And also those who will be watching this beyond the streaming, all the necessary details will be available as part of the end cards or the description. So focus on the end cards. It will take you to the appropriate location, like whether it is content or labs or the reference material, etc. And either it will be in description or end cards. So focus on description as well as end cards. You will get the necessary details. That being said, thank you. Bye. So Vasu is asking, could you please let me know, do you have any idea to start new Scala and Spark batch again? Yes, it will take 3 months approximately. So after this, I'm planning to come up with Hadoop administration. A lot of people are asking me to take Hadoop administration classes, which I will be doing very soon. After that, I will come back to the Scala and Spark again. Okay, and you can shoot me an email. We will actually circulate the details as part of the email. We will broadcast the message. You can also connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, on any social networking platform, so that you will be notified whenever the new batch will be started. That being said, thank you. Bye.